Okay, guys, we're going to go ahead and take a look at commas. It's really important for the ACT test. So there are many ways to use a comma, and that's what we're going to go over here and how the ACT assesses it. So one of those ways is to separate items in a list that includes 3 or more items. And you know this one. You've been taught it much of your life. You may have been, I don't know, instructed not to use that extra comma at the end. This last one here, that's called an Oxford comma or something, you know. But you do need to have it for the ACT. So here we go. Here's an example. At the restaurant, John ordered steak, comma, potatoes, comma, and green beans, comma, and a piece of apple pie. So we have 4 items here. 4 items equals 3 commas, right? They're in red. The comma after restaurant, I didn't make it in red because it is an introductory dependent clause. So you'd need a comma there. I didn't want to highlight it necessarily. All right, here's another one. Susan applied to MU, comma, the University of Michigan, comma, and the University of Hawaii. Notice that we have both of these commas in the ACT. All right, so that's one way. If you don't, things can get really weird. Mel walked into a school and saw a teacher, comma, a counselor, comma, the principal, comma, a classmate eating a candy bar, and a dog. See, in that sentence, the classmate is eating a candy bar and a dog, quite literally chewing on a Snickers and also eating a dachshund. So you need that extra comma, classmate eating a candy bar, comma, and a dog is what you need to correct that mistake. You also need to use a comma when you're separating 2 independent clauses with a coordinating conjunction. This is the most common way you will use a comma in your life, okay? So, Sarah wanted to succeed in her English comp class, comma, but her grammar and punctuation were so poor she failed. So, comma, then a coordinating conjunction. The coordinating conjunctions are fanboys, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. There you go. Another example. The math teacher assigned 3 hours of homework every night, comma, yet he couldn't understand why his students were upset. And then finally, Angie is a good writer, comma, and she publishes her stories in popular magazines. Well, good for Angie. Right? Using commas correctly, I'm assuming. So let's do a little bit of practice here. Where would you put the comma? The man went to the store, comma, and he bought some paper plates. The TV was turned off, comma, and the children cried. Simple enough, right? Okay, another way to use commas is to set off introductory elements. After eating 8 jelly donuts, comma, John felt bloated. Before leaving for the airport, comma, June checked her tickets and suitcase to make sure she had packed everything she would need. Having grown up in the feminist era, comma, I did not now expect to hear comments about what is appropriate behavior for girls, boys, women, and men. Now, here's a trick, guys. You know that there is an introductory element. First, there is a little bit of a break. I wouldn't call it a pause, but you can get a sense that you're a break. After eating 8 jelly donuts, right, comma. The reason that comma goes here is because it appears right before the subject, who is John. So because the subject appears late, we need to have the comma right before the subject. Same situation in the next one. June is our subject. She's doing the checking. So the comma goes before, and this person here in the last example is the subject, I. Okay? Let's do some practice. While I was at the park, I pushed my son on the swing. In the other example, during the play, the people in front of me rudely conversed. What do you think? There you go. While I was at the park, comma, I pushed my son on the swing. Subject appears late, right here. During the play, the people, subject appears late. Okay? That's why. Now, on the ACT, they're always going to want to have the comma when you're using an introductory element. Okay? Always. Always. You can also use a comma when you're setting off words of direct address. So if you're directly addressing someone, Mr. Skinner, comma, I will not warn you again about being late to class. A person is speaking directly to Mr. Skinner. Excuse me, Bill, but you must hand in your exam now. Notice in that example, Bill, the name Bill is surrounded by commas because that's the direct address, so it has to be, directly addressed. If it was at the end of a sentence, it would be, excuse me, but you must hand in your exam now, comma, Bill. Okay? The other way, and this is when things are getting a little tricky, are non-essential elements and appositives. So essential clauses do not need commas, all right? Like, I don't know, highlight that in your notes. Essential clauses do not need commas. We need those clauses, so we don't want to separate them from, with commas. Non-essential clauses, they need commas. So they're non-essential, they're not important, we use commas, all right? So here we go. The dog, comma, which was white and brown, comma, ate the steak. Does it really matter if we know whether the dog was white and brown? Did he only eat the steak because he was white and brown? I don't think so. So that's a non-essential clause. We separate them with commas. The manager of the hotel, which was on Highway 63, had difficulty keeping a good staff. That's just extra information. That's why we put the commas around that clause, which was on Highway 63. And then finally, Harry Brown, who played Macbeth, planned a career on Broadway. It's just extra information that Harry Brown played Macbeth. He probably played 1,000 roles, so it was just kind of an addendum, okay? The main clause is Harry Brown planned a career on Broadway. Do we understand that Harry Brown's going on Broadway? Yes. We don't need to know that he played Macbeth. Now, essential clauses. They do not need commas because the information is needed. All right? Here's a tip. Essential clauses and phrases are often introduced by the pronoun that. They're not only introduced by that, but they likely are. They often are. The dog that ate the steak sneaked away with his tail between his legs. All right? Why did the dog sneak away? All right? Why did he have his tail between his legs? Because he was being bad and he ate the steak. We need to know that information. And in case you're wondering, it is sneaked. You can look that up grammatically. The word is sneaked, not snuck. The other one, the manager of the hotel that burned down was fired. Which hotel? Oh, the one that burned down. We need to know that information. Okay? So let's go ahead and practice on this one. It's a little tricky. Which one of these needs commas and which one does not? So sentence reads, my parents who are both over 65 took a defensive driving course. The other one, many U.S. states retest drivers who are over 65 to check their driving competency. Which one needs the commas? Right? It's tough. Basically, which phrase who are over 65 is not needed? Okay? Which one is not needed? Okay? Oops, skipped ahead there. I can tell you guys, you're going to put the commas, okay, on the first one. My parents, comma, who are both over 65, comma, took a defensive driving course. The next one, you need to know which drivers are being retested. Many U.S. states retest drivers who are over 65 to check their driving competency. It's not every single driver. It's only the ones who are over 65, right? So you want to put commas after parents right here and after 5. My parents took a defensive driving course. That's what those commas mean. Commas means you can take it out. Did the parents still take the driving course regardless of their age? Yes. Okay? If we put commas after drivers and after 5, it would be many U.S. states retest drivers to check their driving competency. That's not true. They don't retest all drivers. They just retest some of them, those old ones. Okay? All right, here's a tip on the ACT. If in doubt, just leave it out. If you don't know what the answer is, just do not include a comma. Choose the one that doesn't have a comma at all. So if 3 answer choices include a comma and 1 does not, read the one without the comma first. It is the correct answer the majority of the time. Of course, you have to look out for the exception, but know that's a good, I don't know, rule of thumb. Okay, when in doubt, if in doubt, leave it out. So those are commas, all right, and we'll continue working on them as we go through the ACT test.